been very good. So let's talk about the trail derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. East Palestine's about an hour north of Pittsburgh, almost halfway to Cleveland. Norfolk Southern has a rail line that goes right through town, and this derailment happened right on the edge outside of town on the border of PA and Ohio. Of the cars that crashed, 5 of them contained vinyl chloride. It's a monomer used to make PVC. The reporting on this has gotten vinyl chloride confused with polyvinyl chloride, the polymer made out of vinyl chloride. Now, the reason that this distinction is really important is vinyl chloride is very hazardous and very flammable. Polyvinyl chloride is a plastics that's used in like everything. The other thing about vinyl chloride is that it boils at 8 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's shipped in its liquid form, meaning that when these trains crashed and these started leaking, they weren't just leaking liquid, but they were spewing boiling gas. So vinyl chloride is really toxic. OSHA has the permissible limit of how much you can be exposed to it during an 8-hour shift as a 1 ppm part per million, average over 8 hours. So prior to this, the biggest spill of this chemical was in New Jersey, where one train car and about 23,000 gallons of vinyl chloride were spilled, but it didn't catch on fire. Now, this crash in Ohio has 5 train cars. These kinds of tanker cars can carry between 25 and 33,000 gallons. Let's call it 250 to 250,000 pounds of vinyl chloride. That's per train car, 5 train cars. There's maybe 1 million pounds of this toxic chemical spilling into the ground and also boiling off into the air. But then it caught on fire. I think this is where the reporting is really bad, because no one is mentioning what the byproduct of vinyl chloride burning is. Of the many byproducts of burning vinyl chloride, one of them is hydrogen chloride. Hydrogen chloride is really unstable and latches onto water, like just water vapor in the atmosphere, and that turns into hydrochloric acid. So right now, government officials from the railroad, both the governor of Pennsylvania and Ohio, are calling burning off the 1 million pounds of this stuff a success, but not mentioning that it means that we have hundreds of thousands of pounds of acid in the air, potentially. Now, ever since engineering school, I've studied a lot of industrial accidents. I just find it really fascinating, and organizations like the Chemical Safety Board, NTSB, and OSHA all have like really good reports available to the public. I think as a designer, it's really good to learn about mistakes. When looking at these kinds of industrial disasters across time, there are a couple things that are pretty universal across all of them. One, the responsible party, in this case, Norfolk Southern Railway, always plays down the reality of the situation. Politicians also just repeat the same lines, and then news outlets just repeat the same. So all we're hearing is the responsible party's word.
These aren't storm clouds. This is the fucking shit that they burn off, the fucking shit they burn off in East Palestine. This is not fucking storm clouds. Look at it. This is over Darlington. This is their fucking success. That ain't no fucking storm cloud. That's the fucking shit from East Palestine. They're fucking controlled burn. I'm ready. Let's get out of here. I wish we could get the fuck out of here. You motherfuckers. You fucking greedy motherfuckers. Impatient bitches. You could have fucking waited. You could have fucking cooled the tanks. You could have transferred the contents. You didn't have to do this. You did it because of time and money. That's exactly why you did it.
All right, Shalom. This is Harwan Banyasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. want to say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Harakar Kodash, Ma'amaf. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and the elders. Shalom to you, Akim, Nakwatim, and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. This is going to be a quick update on, the recent hazardous situations that's happening with the train derailment in Ohio, and also you have another situation, I think, in Texas or Arizona. Well, all right, the thing I've been hearing is that this recent train derailment was allegedly predicted in a Netflix movie. All right, we know there's no predictions, there's only plans. You know, the predictions come from the scriptures or weather predictions, not people saying, yeah, there's going to be a possible train derailment, and then it happens. No, this is planned, and the proof is coming out that these corporations, they were doing a planned controlled burn to burn off those chemicals that's used, what is called vinyl chloride. And that vinyl chloride is what they use to make PVC pipes. All right, or like a plastic, they got poly vinyl chloride as well. Poly meaning like a plastic form. All right. And it's usually stored in a liquid and kept cool so it can be transported. All right, instead of doing that, they're saying to save money, they've been dumping it in the waters, and they're also doing these situations like we see with this possible planned release of gases, all right, from this explosion. And you had another one too recently with the with a truck letting off what's that, arsenic into the air. All right, and if people breathe it in, it can kill them. So, but I want to focus on this one because it's happening all over the country. All right, so it says Ohio train derailment predicted by 2022 Netflix movie. All right, we know there's no predictions, there's only plans. Now, right, let me just keep going. It says back on February 3rd, a freight train derailed in the Ohio town of East Palestine with 20 of the cars carrying hazardous materials. And they said it's over 100 million pounds of this hazardous material. All right, not only burning in a liquid form, pouring all over the ground, but also boiling and letting off gases into the air. And then on top of that, it caught on fire, which changed the construct of it, the material, and changed it to vinyl chloride or hydrogen vinyl chloride, which actually is a gas form of it that clings to vapors molecules. And when it clings to the vapor molecules, which could also happen in precipitation or in the clouds in the sky, as you seen in that last video clip where the guy was going crazy. He's like, what the hell is this? This is from that damn train. You snap. Because that's what it does. It carries into the clouds, and then it could also cause black rain or acid rain, causing more death to the plants, to the people, and to the animals. all right, and sickness and plagues. But this is a controlled burn. Now, you know, a lot of these corporations, they have to get rid of a certain amount of chemicals, and they have to have different ways of doing it. Like what was that called? In China, where they had the radiation spill, and then some of it went out into the water, and you come to find out they was dumping a lot of the hazardous material into the water, into the ocean. And that's how they get rid of it. Just like in Ohio, there's articles coming out that they've been dumping this hazardous material into the waters. And now they're doing this unbelievably doing it this way, man, where they cause a crash to happen, and they I don't know if they caused it or however it happened. They saying that it was a success. These agencies, it's a success that they burned off this chemical instead of transporting it in a liquid form. They were able to get rid of it and burn it through the sky. But it's it can cause a hazard to a lot of the surrounding areas. But it says Netflix viewers have drawn uncanny parallels between a recent film and the chemical spill that took place in Ohio earlier this month. On the 3rd February, a 50-car train derailment in the small town of East Palestine caused a leak of chemicals, including vinyl chloride. All right. And you got other chemicals too that they're not talking about. It says butyl acrylate, ethyl hexyl acrylate, and ethylene glycol monobutyl ether. Sheesh. Right? So it says more than 2,000 residents were ordered to evacuate. It says almost 5,000 people in that neighborhood. But it's traveling all the way over to Pennsylvania, where that guy was filming. It says more than 2,000 residents were ordered to evacuate nearby buildings, really 5,000, due to health concerns over the leak, but have since been allowed to return. See? But this is just the beginning. All right. Let me get this real quick. One of the biggest plot points in both the book and film concerns a train crash which released a huge cloud of toxic chemicals into the air, referred to somewhat euphemistically as the airborne toxic event. Wow. The airborne toxic event. Viewers have pointed out similarities between the disaster as it is depicted in the film and the recent spill in Ohio. You know, these directors be knowing, man. They know Esau's plans, and they put it in the movies. That's part of their satanic agenda, is to let you know exactly what they're about to do, and they still do it. In an interview with People magazine, East Palestine, which is in America, resident Ben Ratner, who featured as an extra in White Noise, spoke about the strange parallels. All right, so airborne toxic event. Talk about art imitating life, he said. This is such a scary situation, and you can just about drive yourself crazy thinking about how uncanny the similarities are between what's happening now and in the movie. Fears continue to mount over the long-term effects of the disaster, with reports already suggesting that local wildlife has been thrown into jeopardy. It's getting serious over there, man. All right, they got local wildlife dying. All right, so it says here from the Independent magazine or whatever. Ohio derailment aftermath. How worried should people be? Plumes of smoke, questions about dead animals, worries about drinking water. All right. Plumes of smoke, questions about dead animals, worries about the drinking water. A train derailment in Ohio and subsequent burning of some of the hazardous chemicals has people asking how worried should they be, right? Because it happened before where the chemicals spilled, which is hazardous. But then you have when if it was to cook or boil over, then it creates a gas. Especially if it catches on fire, it creates a gas and it goes into the clouds. It could cause a pandemic, with also including acid rain and black clouds. All right, so it's the same stuff that they use to create PVC pipe. It's been more than a week since about 50 cars of a freight train derailed in a fiery, mangled mess on the outskirts of East Palestine near the Pennsylvania state line. Apparently because of a mechanical issue with a rail car axle. No one was injured in that wreck, but concerns about air quality and the hazardous chemicals on board the train prompted some village residents to leave, and officials later ordered the evacuation of the immediate area as fears grew about a potential explosion of the smoldering wreckage. Officials seeking to avoid the danger of an uncontrolled blast chose to intentionally release and burn. Officials seeking to avoid the danger of an uncontrolled blast chose to intentionally release and burn toxic vinyl chloride from 5 rail cars, sending flames. So they intentionally did this, sending flames and black smoke, again billowing high into the sky. The jarring scene left people questioning the potential health impacts for residents in the area and beyond. So they did this on purpose. It was intentional. Even as authorities maintained they were doing their best to protect people by releasing more gas into the air. They said an uncontrolled blast, so instead they decided to burn more of the toxic vinyl chloride. And by burning it, that's the worst elemental form of vinyl chloride, is the hydrogen vinyl chloride. In the days since, residents' concerns and questions have only abounded, amplified, in part by misinformation spreading online. All right. Was the controlled burn safe? So it was called a controlled burn, man. That's what I was saying in the beginning. This was a controlled burn, meaning they burned it on purpose, intentionally. Vinyl chloride is associated with increased risk of certain cancers. And officials at the time warned burning it would release 2 concerning gases, hydrogen chloride and phosgene, which was used as a weapon in World War I. Could it be used as a weapon now? Environmental officials say that monitors detected toxins in the air at the site during the controlled burn, and that officials kept people away until that dissipated. They say continuing air monitoring done for the railroad and by government agencies hasn't detected dangerous levels in the area, including during testing inside nearly 400 homes since residents were allowed to return. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has shared air monitoring results online. Basically all smear campaign. That was all bullshit. I heard a lady earlier on the interview, she was saying, what do we do now? I've been cleaning everything, trying to wipe this stuff off. How do we know we're cleaning it correctly? What should we do? Should we get new stuff? Should we? So they're going through it over there. But the Lord said these things are going to happen. All right, so it's a controlled burn, man. All right, so I ain't going to read this. Actually, I'll read this a little bit. It says, even in communities, what are the continuing concerns? Even in communities beyond East Palestine, some residents say they worry about long-term effects of even low-grade exposure to contaminants from the site. The village has scheduled a town hall at the local high school Wednesday evening to hear questions from residents whose concerns have including lingering smells, how to ensure accountability for the cleanup, and what to make of pets and livestock that have appeared ill or died since the derailment. The risk to such animals is low, according to the smear campaigns, man. The derailment also highlighted questions about railroad safety, though federal data show accidents involving hazardous material at this scale are very rare. Trains were rolling past East Palestine again soon after the evacuation order was lifted. What about the ground and water? Contaminants from derailed cars spilled into some waterways and were toxic to fish, but officials have said drinking water in the area has remained protected. All right, so all this stuff was released into the air. This article seems interesting. I kind of want to keep reading it, but I just don't trust it. It seems like kind of like a smear campaign. I read this next couple of chapters, paragraphs. In addition to vinyl chloride, at least 3 other substances, butyl acrylate, ethyl hexyl acrylate, and ethylene glycol monobutyl, were released into the air, soil, or water, according to a U.S. Environmental Protection Agency letter putting rail operator Norfolk Southern on notice about its potential liability for cleanup costs. See, it's like all this rambling. All right, bear with me. I'm going to keep reading. Norfolk Southern's response has included efforts to remove spill. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources estimates the spill affected more than 7 miles of streams and killed some 3,500 fish, mostly small ones such as minnows and darters. All right, so that's kind of an example of what's going to happen when all hell breaks loose and the missiles get shut off. And the Lord said the water's gonna become bitter, like blood, meaning toxic. All right, this is Sirach 5 and 7. Make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, man, right? Because the times are evil. That's why we have to turn to the Lord immediately. You know, repenting and believing and calling on the name of Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, and keeping his ways. Make no tarrying to turn to the Lord. Put not off from day to day, right? You never know what happened the next day, or the day that we're living. You never know what a day brings, is the old saying. For suddenly shall the wrath of Yahweh come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance. All right, so in thy security, and a lot of people feel secure with these jobs, on these suburbs, on these houses, and at any moment, these heathens, man, just like they're doing in California, allegedly doing controlled forest fires or whatever you want to call them, you know, forcing people out of these areas, forcing people into concentration camps, or what you call, you know, to go down to Egypt for help, to America, forcing them into shelters, I should say. All right. So the Lord said, what? The scripture say, for suddenly shall the wrath of Yahweh come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed, man. You know, and part of the Lord's wrath are these plagues. All right, I'm sure some people getting sick and dying from it, but it's all a sign of a collapsing society. All right, it's Revelation 6 and 8. They said a lot of these agencies like OSHA and other agencies that Moabite had named in the beginning, he said a lot of them knew about this controlled burn that they're doing. All right, and they allowed it to happen, and they said it was a success. Revelation 6 and 8. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. Pale represents plagues. And his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed, man. See, everything Esau does, and these, especially ones that over these corporations, these globalists, pagans, they're like death, and they bring nothing but hell, sorrow. Right? And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth. Fourth part of the earth represents the four parts, meaning north, east, west, and south, meaning the whole world, is where they're going to bring their desires for their new world order. And they're going to cause hell to break loose all over the earth. To kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth, and with death, man, you know, and with these chemicals too. That way it said it was a weapon used in World War I. All right, and they got to be some cold-hearted individuals to sit back behind a corporate desk and say, yeah, we're gonna do a controlled, you know, burn, letting off toxic air release. It says what? Matthew 24 and 12. And because iniquity shall abound, right? Wickedness is growing in the earth, and also in these corporate offices, man. These corporate leaders. All right. Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Because the more wicked people are gathered into a room, you know, the more they say there's more sharks in the room than to tear you apart and to basically kill everybody. All right. So the more these wicked corporations increase, the more they're going to have situations where they got to burn off fuel, where they got to burn off chemicals, where they got to dump certain amount of chemicals. You know, right? All these corporate leaders that care nothing about the people. They only care about their pockets. Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity. See, iniquity is abounding. All of their plans, all of their corporate ideas. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. All right, because these corporations and these Edomites that rule these corporations, it's in the power of their hands, and a lot of Moabites as well. Because it's in the power of their hands, they do things like this, and they actually practice it, and they say, hey, it was a controlled burn, it was a success, and hey, let's just deal with the fallout of it now. And then you get videos like that guy screaming, it's like looking at the clouds, and it falls on the people. And in this case, it could be acid rain, and that's an example of what's going to happen when the ICBMs start to hit this on the soils of America. There's going to be toxic chemicals going around into the clouds by it turning to a hydrogen form and clinging to the vapors in the cloud, the molecules, creating what you'll call acid rain, radioactive rain. It's going to kill a lot of the wildlife, the plants, and the people. That's what you call also a nuclear fallout. All right, and this is kind of like an example of it, how it went into the atmosphere real fast. Those chemicals, and it changed form. It turned the sky black. All right, but the difference with an ICBM, it would be something called a nuclear winter, to where the sky would be so black in the clouds that would block out the sun for months, which would cause more death upon earth and weather atrocities. 2 Corinthians 2:11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, man. So we're not ignorant of Esau and their plans, because it's in the power of their hands. They wake up and that's why they always say the devil is in the details, meaning deception is in the details. You gotta look in the details and you'll see like, oh, it was them. They allowed it. They did a controlled burn. They sent all the chemicals off instead of transporting it a different way, and it caught on fire. Or they set it on fire. All right. This is 2 Ezra 15:10. It says, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt, right? The Lord is about to deliver his elect out of this place, because it's going to be that bad. We're not going to be able to be here, where we will be destroyed. But it says what? Being led to the slaughter, man. Because that's what's coming, a slaughter. According to Revelation chapter 6 that I just read. Esau been given the power of a death. And they're going to bring nothing but hell on earth. Their desires have enlarged for the new world order. But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and will smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. So the Lord is smiting this place with plagues, but ultimately he's going to destroy the whole land. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that Yahweh shall bring upon it. All right. So that's what these gases and these toxic events can bring. Plagues. They that till the ground shall mourn, for their seeds shall fail through the blasting and hail with a fearful constellation. Woe to them that dwell therein. For the sword and the destruction draweth nigh. All right. So this is Luke 21:26. Men's heart failing them for fear. See, people plans in their mind, their pride is going to start to fail. All right, they're gonna lose hope. It says men's heart failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. You know, so these people are gonna be in fear from this, for the type of stuff that's gonna break out, man. Hazardous materials. You know, now they're talking about some damn zombie plague. So men's heart failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. And these train derailments, these truck derailments and hazardous materials, it's all part of it. This is 2 Timothy 3:1. I'm gonna read one verse. It says, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. These are perilous times. This is 2 Ezra 16:37. Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack, man. All right, so we're in the time of plagues. As when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son, and 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compass her about. Which pains, when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment, right? So what comes before the child is born? The contractions. So this is like the contractions. All right, before the major destructions. Even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. That's what's happening right now. The people on the earth are in mourning and sorrows. The hell that's breaking loose. Sorrow and hell go hand in hand together. Wherever Esau is enlarging their desires, and the Lord is bringing judgment through them on this earth. It says what? And the world shall mourn, and sorrows shall come upon it on every side. That's the whole earth, 4 parts of the earth. O my people, hear my word, make you ready to thy battle. And we're fighting spiritual battle. And then those evils be as pilgrims upon the earth. So be ready to move around. You know, be separated from these people. All right, don't have your mind stuck in one place, because it could easily, you have to get up and leave. It can cause floods. Look at Katrina. They allegedly, the levees were broken, I'll say that. So, look at September 11th. 2 Ezra 16:17. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? All right, so who can deliver us from all this stuff, man? Yahushua. The beginning of sorrows and great mournings. See, the world's gonna be in mourning. So this is the beginning of it. Of great mournings, man. Mourning deal with death and sickness and loss, oppression. The beginning of famine and great death. So that's what they keep saying. There's a food crisis going on, but it hasn't fully happened yet. Hyperinflation and these hazardous materials, but it hasn't really killed too many people yet. But soon it's going to be a lot, you know. Soon it's going to really start affecting the people. It's like they're doing dry runs or something. The beginning of wars, see, we're in the beginning of wars. That's what they call them, proxy wars. The powers shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils, what shall I do when these evils shall come? All right, Zephaniah 3:1. Woe to her that is filthy and polluted. So America is that place now. It's filthy and polluted, physically and spiritually. All right, woe to her that is filthy and polluted, to the oppressing city. Ephesians 5:14. Wherefore he saith, awake, thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Yahushua shall give thee light. See, it's talking to Israelites. All right, the elect of Israel, awake out of sleep, awake out of this American dream, and see that the page is being turned. All right, it's being They say that America's under attack, and the media is not saying anything. They're actually at war. Ephesians 5:15. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil, man. All right. Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is, because the Lord said He's gonna destroy this place. All right. So when we see it happening, we're not shocked. We're not in disbelief. We know these things, and we're anticipating for it to get worse. All right. So yeah, man, this was they call it an airborne toxic event. All right, a controlled burn. A controlled burn, man. All right, it says it was used as the same type of chemical was used as a weapon in World War I. It's deep, man. So with that, I'm gonna end it there and just say, hey, shalom, be circumspect.